Welcome to Inside the Issues. My name is Amrit Singh. It has been a transformational year for Los Angeles and for California, and we all know that very well. We take it back to January 7th with the LA firestorm, and then June 6th, the beginning of ice raids that precipitated a legal and logistical showdown with the federal government, if there wasn't one already. And along the way, budget shortfalls in the city and the state, with LA trying to rebuild with huge events like the World Cup and the Olympics on the horizon. Well, my next guest is someone who's not only thinking about these issues, but speaking about them and acting on them as well. It is Rick Caruso, real estate developer, founder of Steadfast LA, and so much more. Rick, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. It's great to meet you, great to have you, and welcome to Inside the Issues.
It's good to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Listen, you are, as you know, and so many of our viewers know, a son of LA, and you've served this city as the youngest city commissioner in city history at that time when you were in your 20s. You built so much in LA, like the Grove Mall, so many other features. You ran for mayor. All this is to say, and I could go on, is that you understand not just LA, but building in California. So when you see what's happening here in the city and the state, what's your sense of the state of things?
Well, it's painful. I think it's painful for so many of us in LA and so painful for so many of us in the state of California to see the decline that we have because of crime and homelessness, the increased cost of living in Los Angeles, the state of California, the lack of affordable housing that's desperately needed, again, in Los Angeles and throughout the state. And we've got to do better. We can do better. California should lead this nation. We're the fourth largest economy, which is great, but we should lead this nation in housing and in education and in getting the homeless off the streets and giving them a better path of life and cleaning up our neighborhoods and making sure that crime is the lowest it can possibly be so we have safe neighborhoods. So it's frustrating at times and painful, but I remain very optimistic about this region, that with the right kind of leadership, we can turn things around, and we will turn things around.
And of course, people have looked at you for leadership, and you've been speaking a lot about these things. You've run for mayor. There's some speculation about what you may do in the future. But we see some of your leadership come to bear with the LA fires and the Palisades fire. I mean, you're someone who stepped into the fold after that. I know this was personal for you. You lost family homes. We heard you speak after the fires as well. You founded Steadfast LA, this nonprofit, private sector leader. There's companies involved. There's others involved. Just talk a little bit about the mission and what you see as the progress and the accomplishments so far when it comes to fire recovery through Steadfast LA.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. Well, I formed Steadfast about a week after the fires. And what I know for sure, and I think so many of us know for sure, is that this disaster, like many other disasters around the United States and around the world, is too big for government alone to turn around and recover from. So you've got to have public-private partnerships. You've got to have the private sector leaning in and helping on this. And that's the mission of Steadfast, is to get people back in their communities, back in their homes as quickly and safely as possible. And that's Palisades, Altadena, Malibu, and of course, parts of Pasadena that were impacted. And we've done great things. I'm really proud of our team. And I reached out to about a dozen or so CEOs, thought leaders, experts in different fields. And I asked them, do you want to be part of rebuilding a city? Would you donate your time and your talent to come together and solve really critical problems and hand solutions over to the state, to the county, and to the city, and be a partner with them with a great sense of urgency in moving things along? And we've done that. The AI model that we developed and handed off to the city and the county that will now plan check someone's home in a matter of hours versus months, the rebuilding of Palisades Park, the underground of utilities that we're doing through the county and through the city, and how we developed that plan. And I spent a good amount of time yesterday in Altadena. We have a grant program for small and medium-sized businesses where we're giving grants up to $1 million worth of grants on helping businesses get back on their feet and get back open and drive their business back, because so many small businesses were wiped out in these communities, and they are the backbone of our economy. So we have a number of initiatives. I'm proud of what we're doing. We've got our foot on the pedal way down and keep pushing forward.
And you speak through all this. It speaks to the appeal of what the private sector can do in a moment like this, unburdened of some of the institutional friction that we see in what is otherwise also a very diffuse government structure in LA. You talk about Altadena, of course, that's outside of city limits, and so many people got a civics crash course when we saw the Palisades fire and what we saw with the Eaton fire.
Yeah.
But of course, government's a big part of this, and you've been working with government, but also watching leadership. I mean, what's been your appraisal of what we've seen from LA leadership and government in city and county?
Leadership that we have in the city, and I think for the most part in the county, is unequipped to handle major issues like this. I've quite frankly think they're unequipped to manage a very complex city and a complex county, and we're seeing that now. You know, when things are going well, leadership and the lack thereof is not that visible. When things are in a bit of a crisis, when things are difficult, complicated, and tough, you definitely see it. And we saw that here in Los Angeles, and we're all paying the price for it. The rebuilding has gone very, very slow. We still have an enormous amount of red tape that is holding people back from rebuilding their homes and rebuilding their businesses. The one area that is the bright side was the work that was done by the Army Corps of Engineers under the federal government. The cleanup went relatively quicker than anticipated, which was great. But the city and the county should have been prepared to be right behind them with the resources and the support needed to get people back in their community. And this is where Steadfast is spending a lot of time, is really pushing the city along to get that red tape out so people can rebuild and get back in the community.
You know, Rick, a lot of people are frustrated with the pace of rebuild, but there are those, and especially those inside the city, who say, well, we're moving as quickly as possible and quicker in some cases than we've seen after some other fires. I had Mayor Bass here at the desk just last week, and we were talking about the pace of rebuild, and she did point out that the first permit for the Palisades was approved twice as quickly as Woolsey or the Camp Fire. There are now some 300 residences where permits have been approved out of 1,000 that have been submitted for approvals. What's your sense of those numbers? Do you think that, again, faster perhaps than other fires, is that could be better or not good enough?
Well, I think making a comparison to other failures and you're better than other failures is really a sad commentary on leadership. And to be clear, the first permit that was issued for the Palisades was a house that received a permit right before the fire that was just reissued. So there was no heavy lifting on that at all. And it was frankly used as a photo moment, you know, to get some rhetoric out there. People don't care about that. People want to see action. They want to see what's actually happening, tangible results. Go film the Palisades. Go film Altadena. Go film Malibu and see the lack of homes that are under construction. That tells you the whole story. So the political rhetoric is a bunch of baloney, and people see right through it. And there's a great frustration as we're coming on to the 9-month anniversary of this fire. And we need to do better. And Angelenos deserve better service on this.
You know, you mentioned the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the federal government, and a lot of this is about the kind of federal response that we're seeing. And obviously, things would go quicker if we had more federal funds. There's an outstanding ask from Governor Newsom that still has not been responded to. And there's a conversation about conditioning this aid, as we've seen from President Trump earlier on. It was about water flow and voter ID laws, and now it's become about other things. A mayor or a governor is going to have to figure out how to protect California values, whatever the voters decide those are, and also understand how to secure those federal resources from the federal government. If you were in a position to be talking to President Trump, to the federal government about this, how would you strike that balance?
Well, you've got to have a clear North Star. The clear North Star is, I'm going to do what's in the best interest of the residents of Los Angeles. And what that means is we've got to get federal funding here, to your point. There's billions of dollars of infrastructure that needs to be rebuilt. And we need federal funding to do that. And I disagree with President Trump on attaching other political wishes onto this federal funding. That's just not fair to do on the backs of people who have lost everything. This is much bigger than a politics session here. We've got to come in and help people. And so I would do my best to find common ground with the president, the federal government, the agencies, so we can get some help and some funding here. And we've got to do that. But that
And some of
doesn't
what we're
mean we
seeing.
sacrifice our values. That doesn't mean we sacrifice our culture. That doesn't mean we allow the federal government to come in and have ICE raids and deployment of the military and everything else. No, we hold our ground and we defend ourselves. But we have to do both. And we have to find ways to bridge that. But that's what people who are skilled executives, skilled in running complex organizations, frankly know how to do. And I would certainly do my very best to make sure we got the funding, and we got the funding without the attachments that the federal government would like.
You know, and a lot of this does go this ongoing showdown that we've seen between Governor Gavin Newsom and President Trump, and in some cases, Mayor Bass and President Trump as well, on the back of the ICE raids and what we've seen with the federalization of the National Guard and beyond. This has also now taken shape of a congressional line drawing contest between Texas and California at the behest of President Trump in Texas. And Governor Newsom says, we are responding, and he's called it the Election Rigging Response Act. This Prop 50 is up. What's your sense of Prop 50 and the rhetoric between leaders here in California and the president, and then also the redistricting plan, the fighting fire with fire?
Yeah, well, I'm on the record of supporting what the Prop 50 because I think we have to do that in response to what Texas is doing. And I wish Texas never started this. And I hope California goes back to the system we have with an independent commission on the redistricting as soon as possible. But let me tell you, I think the name calling, this really isn't what mature grown up people do. And it doesn't result in anything that's going to be good for residents of California or residents of Los Angeles. It just further divides people and separates people. Could you imagine in my job or in your job if you sat there and insulted your counterpoint or your boss all day long and then you expect to work together? I mean, it's foolish. It's political theater on both sides, and it needs to stop. And these elected officials need to every day work in the best interest of those they serve. And they may not like who they're working with. I understand that. But they have to hold that down, and they have to go to a higher mission of defending our great state, defending our city, but doing it in a way that does not alienate the ability of the federal government to come in here and give us the help that we need.
Rick, one of the things that people find so appealing about you as a political prospect is that you've run so many operations, businesses, properties that people love with such success. And you've pointed to a lot of these with pride, for instance, the Grove and the attention to detail and the cleanliness. And you've said that you feel, that this is also the way that people should approach running the city. But, also the Grove and these kinds of operations don't have a city council, don't have what people have called the diffuse power structure when it comes to not being a particularly strong mayor city. And you've talked about this as well. But just talk about how the principles of running these kinds of operations, what aspects translate and then what aspects don't? Because again, you'd have to pull some people along for the ride, like city council, like potentially the board of supervisors, like others in the legislature if you were up in Sacramento.
Yeah, of course. But again, people, and they wouldn't normally understand this, so I'm not insulting anybody, certainly not my intent. You can't build a Grove unless you can convince a whole group of elected officials and appointed officials and the community that you're serving, that you're building in, that the Grove is a good thing for the community, and you're going to do it in a way that respects the community. You have to get their approval, so you have to work together. That's just what we do. We find common ground. We listen. We hear what people want. We hear what people don't want. And then we exceed the expectations of people on a daily basis. But remember, I also ran Department of Water and Power, which is the largest public utility in the country for many years, under Tom Bradley, and then again under Dick Reardon. I also was the head of the Los Angeles Police Department, the commissioner, under Mayor Hahn. So I know how to run complex organizations in the private sector, and I also have had success running complex organizations in the government sector, and done it with great pride and with great success. And I think those two skill sets coming together for the benefit of the residents of California or Los Angeles, if I decide to do that, I would gladly do that, because I think we would make great achievement very quickly in turning the trajectory of the city or the state around and making it more livable for Angelenos, more livable for people in California, less costly. All of that can be done. There are solutions to every problem we have if you've got the backbone, the will, and you bring people together to work together to solve problems. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, it sounds, Rick, like you've given it a lot of thought, and also a lot of thought to how you could fit into some of these offices. And I've heard you say that, look, maybe on the other side of summer, come fall, I'll have an answer as to whether I'm running and which office I'm running for. I checked in with their meteorological department, and it is technically meteorological autumn. So we're in the season. When might we get a sense from you about what it's going to be?
We're in the season of decisions.
That's right. Well, I mean, according to you, it's the fall. We're in it, technically.
Yeah, and I will be making a decision soon. But right now, and I'm very seriously taking a look at both paths. And there's some great opportunities in each, and it would be an incredible honor to serve either the city or the state. But I've got some more work and thinking to do on it. And right now, I really want to do more on the Steadfast side. And getting these communities rebuilt, getting businesses rebuilt, getting people back into homes. And there's time to make political decisions, and I'll do that in due course.
Listen, we sat here day after day watching LA on fire. I sat here anchoring it for 13 straight days, and the horror of it, and people still feeling so frustrated with the rebuild. So we appreciate you thinking about it and working on it, and we know you have some big decisions to make, and just appreciate the opportunity to have a thoughtful conversation with you about all this, and hope to do it again sometime soon.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage. And click the subscribe button here. You can also download our app and watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.